International History at the University of Turin. His work focuses on the Middle East and on Palestine. Joining us from Rome. Welcome back, sir. You say that today we can draw an analogy between what happened in 1948 and what's been going on in Gaza since the start of this war. Tell us why.
There are some points of connection in relation, of course, to the razing to the ground of cities, villages, of mosques back in 1948. We know that 15 mosques were turned into synagogues, 40 mosques were destroyed or closed. At the same time, the Jordanian Arab Legion destroyed Hurba and other synagogues in the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem. More than on buildings, I will focus on people. The refugee population in the Gaza Strip jumped from 100,000 to 230,000, so more than doubled as a result of the Operation Yoav, the operation which was started by Israeli forces in mid-October 1948. Back then, Michael Gallant was the father of the current Israeli Minister of Defense. Yoav Gallant took part in that operation and decided to name his son Yoav precisely to celebrate that operation. The operation that more than any other operation changed for good the demographic balance in the Gaza Strip. I want to remind you also that within the Yoav operation took place also the Dawamiya massacre, one of the most atrocious massacres in the war of 1948. And in our days, Yoav Gallant and more in general, the Israeli authority are trying, so to say, to close the circle of history, this time trying to thin down the population in Gaza. So in this sense, history is never the same, but certainly there are some points of connection.
And in terms of the international support, is there something to be said about international support back in 1948 compared to what's happening right now in Gaza? And to what extent is the West enabling the displacement and the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and as well as what's happening in the occupied West Bank today?
Let's say that certainly there is an important role. We know in particular the US and Germany are the two major providers of weapons to Israel. At the same time, we know, and we don't have to guess about governmental policy in relation to Israel, because we know that Israel President Herzog was clearly pointing out that there's an entire nation that is responsible, so that there are not civilians on the ground. So in this sense, we know that providing weapons at this stage in this situation, certainly we know the direction, even more so considering that in last October 24, a document leaked from the Israeli intelligence minister outlined a plan for the expulsion of Palestinians to the Sinai. So all this was not something to guess, but we have official plans that are there. So certainly there is an important role. And this role, however, today is different than from the one in 1948, in as much as the balance of power are changing. There are now new powers like China and other actors. Of course, it's still an ongoing process, but certainly these other players are changing in many ways this power balance, and certainly the direction that we'll see in the coming months and weeks will be affected by all this, is already affected by all this.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo Kamel. Thanks for joining us from Rome. So